I met her on a spring morning at Morning Brew Cafe, the kind of place where locals actually knew your order. She was sitting alone, staring at her laptop with this frustrated expression that made me want to help. We started talking and she mentioned this apartment she had just bought, her first place, and how it needed work but her budget was tight. I am a contractor, third generation, so offering to help felt natural. She smiled when I suggested stopping by to take a look, and her eyes lit up like I had just offered her the world. "Really? That would mean the world to me," she said. I felt needed, useful, like maybe this was the start of something good. I should have noticed the way she quickly pulled out her phone to take notes. Looking back, that smile should have been my first warning. But before I tell you how badly this ended, and trust me, it gets worse than you think, let me know in the comments where you are watching from and what is the biggest favor you have ever regretted doing for someone. Hit that like button if you have ever felt taken advantage of, and subscribe because this story has a twist you will not see coming. I promise by the end you will understand why sometimes the best revenge is legal revenge. Now let me take you back to where this all started. My name is Donnie. I am 32 years old, and I learned the contracting trade from my father and my grandfather before him. In my family, we had this value drilled into us from childhood: if you can help someone, you do it. No questions asked. I had just come out of a 5-year relationship about 6 months before I met Stephanie. My ex-girlfriend Emily had moved across the country for a job opportunity, and we decided a long-distance relationship was not worth the strain. So there I was, trying to heal, throwing myself into work, hitting the gym with my buddy Jake, and just trying to find myself again. That morning at the cafe felt like fate. Stephanie was in her mid-20s, worked in marketing, had this auburn hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and wore paint-stained jeans that made her look down to earth and real. She was not trying to impress anyone, just genuinely stressed about this apartment situation. When she told me about the place, about how she had saved for years to afford it, about her first-time homeowner dreams, I felt this connection. I remembered my first house, the excitement mixed with terror, the overwhelming list of things that needed fixing. So when I said I could swing by this weekend, take a look, no charge, just helping a neighbor out, it felt right. It felt like the kind of thing my dad would do, the kind of man I wanted to be. That first Saturday, I drove to her place in Northeast Portland. It was a 2-bedroom condo on the second floor of an older building, the kind with character but also with problems. When she opened the door, I could see why she needed help. The fixtures were outdated, the walls had this yellowing tint that screamed decades of cigarette smoke from previous tenants. The carpet was worn down to the backing in places, the bathroom tiles were chipped, and the kitchen cabinets looked like they had survived the 80s barely. Stephanie walked me through each room, her voice still carrying that mix of embarrassment and hope. "I know it is not much, but it is mine, you know," she said, touching the wall like it was something precious despite its flaws. I was already making a mental list: paint the walls in the living room and bedroom, replace that bathroom faucet that was clearly dripping, fix the squeaky cabinet hinges, maybe do something about the lighting. Nothing too crazy. In my head, I estimated a few $100s in materials, maybe 2 weekends of labor. Easy work. She made coffee while we talked, and we sat at her small kitchen table. She told me about her marketing job, how she wanted to eventually go freelance, build her own client base. She seemed ambitious, independent, someone who was not looking for a handout but just needed a little boost. I liked that about her. It made me feel like helping her was investing in someone who would pay it forward someday. Then she said something that should have been a red flag, but I was too caught up in the moment to notice. When I mentioned I could grab the paint next week, she quickly added, "Oh, could you also check if the living room needs new baseboards? I saw some water damage near the window." I paused because that was a bigger job than I had anticipated, but I agreed. "That is a bit more work, but yeah, I can take a look," I said. She thanked me 3 times in a row, and I drove home feeling good about myself, telling myself it was just a few extra hours. The following Saturday, I showed up at 8 in the morning with my truck loaded full of supplies. Paint cans, brushes, rollers, a new bathroom faucet, my toolbox, everything I thought I would need. I had already spent about $300 of my own money on materials, figuring I would mention it later, no rush. Stephanie greeted me at the door with fresh coffee and bagels from the shop down the street. "You are an angel, seriously," she said, and I felt that warmth again, that sense of purpose. I spent the entire day working, taping off the walls, priming the surfaces, applying the first coat of this warm gray color I had picked out called Agreeable Gray by Sherwin-Williams. The physical work felt good, and seeing the transformation happen in real time was satisfying. Stephanie checked in every hour or so, always with compliments. "Oh my God, Donnie, this color is perfect. How did you know?" She seemed genuinely thrilled. Around noon, she ordered pizza and we sat on her floor eating together because she did not have much furniture yet. We laughed, shared stories about our worst apartment experiences, and for a moment I thought maybe this could turn into something more than just me helping out a neighbor. Maybe we were building something here. The afternoon was spent fixing that bathroom faucet. The old one was not just leaking, it was corroded, the threads were stripped, and it took me twice as long as I expected to get it off and install the new one. By 6 in the evening, I was exhausted but happy. The living room had its first coat of paint, the bathroom faucet was working beautifully, and Stephanie seemed over the moon. But then, as I was packing up my tools, she mentioned something that made my stomach tighten just slightly. "So next weekend, could you do the bedroom too, and maybe look at the kitchen cabinets? I think they just need new hardware." I paused because that was adding more work, but her smile, her excitement, the way she looked at me like I was her hero, I could not say no. "Sure, yeah. I can do that," I said. Driving home that night, my back was aching, my hands were stained with paint that would not wash out completely, but I told myself it was worth it. She really appreciates it. It will be worth it. During the week, Stephanie started texting me daily. She would send photos of Pinterest ideas, links to light fixtures she liked, questions about flooring options. "Do you think laminate or vinyl plank? Which is better? I found these cabinet handles on sale. Can you install them?" I responded patiently every time, giving her my professional advice, never charging for the consultation. But I started noticing a shift. The texts were becoming less "thank you" and more "can you also." The gratitude was fading, replaced by expectation. Friday night she called me. "Hey, I know tomorrow is your day, but could you come Friday night too? I want to get started earlier." I had plans that night. I was supposed to hit the gym with Jake, maybe grab beers after, but I canceled. "I will be there at 7, I told her. When I arrived, she had a list waiting for me. Not a mental list, an actual written list on a piece of notebook paper. And it was not just painting the bedroom like we had discussed. She wanted a ceiling fan, installed closet shelving, put up new light fixtures in the hallway. I stared at that list, feeling this weight in my chest. "Stephanie, this is a lot more than we talked about," I said carefully. Her face fell immediately. "Oh." The guilt trip was subtle but incredibly effective. I sighed, feeling trapped between wanting to help and knowing I was being taken advantage of. "All right, but I will need to buy more materials." She hugged me, actually hugged me, and said, "You are the best. I will pay you back, I promise." That night I worked until midnight, drilling holes for the ceiling fan bracket, running the wiring, assembling the fan blades, installing shelving brackets, swapping out light fixtures. I was exhausted, and somewhere deep down I was starting to feel used. But I still hoped that after this things would slow down, that maybe she would see how much I was doing and actually follow through on paying me back. Weekend 2 arrived, and I showed up Saturday morning expecting to paint the bedroom and install the cabinet hardware we had talked about. Simple enough. But when I walked in, Stephanie already had small additions to the list. Small, she called them. Replace all the kitchen cabinet handles. Not just some of them. Install under-cabinet lighting she had bought on sale. Fix her garbage disposal that had stopped working. Patch several holes in the bedroom drywall left by the previous owner. I protested. "Stephanie, I cannot do all this in one weekend." She actually pouted her bottom lip, pushing out like a child. "But you said you would help. I already told my mom the apartment would be done soon." I gave in. I always gave in. And I worked both Saturday and Sunday 14-hour days, barely stopping to eat the sandwiches I had packed for myself. The materials cost kept climbing. I was now over $800 deep. The cabinet hardware alone cost me about $150 for the good quality stuff she wanted. The under-cabinet lighting was another $200. Stephanie mentioned payment exactly once that weekend. "I will Venmo you next paycheck," she said casually while scrolling through her phone. She never did, and I was too uncomfortable to push the issue because I did not want to seem petty or ruin whatever relationship we were building. Weekend 3, she dropped the bomb. "The carpet is gross. Can you put down vinyl plank flooring? I already measured. We need about 20 boxes." I was shocked into silence for a moment. That is a huge job. That is easily $2,000 in materials alone, plus the labor is, I started to explain, but she cut me off. But you get contractor discount, right? And you are so fast at this stuff. I felt anger building in my chest, but also this crushing guilt. She was struggling financially, she had told me that multiple times. I could help. I had the skills. Against every instinct screaming at me to stop, I said I will see what I can do. I spent that entire week pricing out flooring using my contractor account to get the discount, and I ended up spending about $1,500 on materials. $1,500 of my own money. I kept telling myself this was the last big thing, that after the flooring was done I would be finished. That Friday evening I pulled up with my truck loaded with boxes of vinyl plank flooring. Stephanie met me at the door, and her attitude had shifted noticeably. There was less gratitude, more expectation in her voice. "Oh, good you are here. I need this done by Sunday, my parents are visiting next week." "No, thank you, no, you are amazing," just demands about her timeline. I bit my tongue and started unloading. The process of installing flooring is brutal. First I had to remove all that disgusting old carpet. Underneath was worse than I imagined, stains I did not want to identify, a smell that made me gag, padding that had fused to the subfloor. Saturday was spent entirely on demolition and preparation. I had to scrape clean, level the uneven areas of the subfloor. It was backbreaking work. Stephanie barely acknowledged my existence that day. She was on her phone most of the time, and in the afternoon she actually left to go out with friends. I ate my cold sandwich alone in her kitchen, then worked until 10 at night getting everything prepped. Sunday was the installation day. Each plank of vinyl flooring had to be carefully measured, cut, and clicked into place. It is meticulous work that requires precision. By late Sunday evening, I had finished the living room and bedroom. The flooring looked professional, beautiful even. The transformation was remarkable. I was completely exhausted. My hands had blisters forming, my back was screaming, and every muscle in my body ached. I showed Stephanie the finished work, expecting, I do not know, maybe some genuine appreciation. "All done." "Looks pretty good, right?" I said, trying to hide how desperately I wanted her to acknowledge the work. She walked around, nodding, barely looking at me. "Yeah, it is fine. Thanks." "Fine." That single word hit me like a punch. I had spent an entire weekend, $1,500, destroyed my body with physical labor, and it was fine. Not amazing, not incredible, not thank you so much. Fine. I tried to bring up the money situation. "So, about the materials. I have spent about," I started, but she cut me off immediately. "Can we talk about that later? I am tired." "Thanks again." She essentially dismissed me like I was hired help she did not even have to pay. I left and sat in my truck outside her building for 10 minutes, hands shaking with frustration. I texted Jake, "Dude, I think I just got played." His response came immediately. "You think, bro, stop being her free labor." He was right. I knew he was right, but I felt so stupid for not seeing it sooner. I drove home with my mind racing. I had now spent over $2,500, given up 4 full weekends, worked countless hours, and she treated me like an inconvenience she got to profit from. Tuesday came and went with no text from Stephanie, not even a simple "thank you for the flooring." Wednesday I finally sent her a message, "Hey, wanted to follow up about the materials costs." She replied hours later, "Oh yeah, I have been meaning to talk to you about that." She suggested meeting for coffee. I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she would pay me back, maybe she would apologize for being distant. Thursday evening we met at the same cafe where we had first met. The irony was not lost on me. Stephanie looked relaxed, happy, completely unbothered. We made small talk for a few minutes, and then I brought it up, so I added everything up. Materials came to about $2,500. "I know it is a lot, but I have all the receipts if you want to see them." Her expression changed. Not too apologetic or grateful, but calculating. Cold. "Donnie, I never asked you to spend that much." I felt the air leave my lungs. "What? You literally requested all of this work. The flooring, the lights," I started, but she interrupted me. "I asked for help. You offered. You never said it would cost this much? If you wanted payment, you should have said that up front." I mentioned I could not afford contractors multiple times. Her tone was matter-of-fact, almost annoyed that I was bringing this up. Stephanie, I spent a month of my life, thousands of dollars, I said, my voice rising slightly. She leaned back in her chair, and then it happened. The smirk, that cold, calculated smirk that told me everything I needed to know. Look, Donnie, I appreciate what you did. Really. But you are a contractor. This is what you do. Think of it as portfolio work. Then she said the words that made my blood boil. Thanks for the value boost, by the way. My realtor says the place is worth $30,000 more now. The smirk widened. She was proud. Proud that she had used me to increase her property value on my dime, with my labor, with my time. I could not speak. Rage, betrayal, shock, they all hit me at once like a freight train. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not a miscommunication. She had planned this from day one. She stood up from the table. Anyway, I have to run. Thanks again. She walked out, leaving me sitting there alone, my coffee untouched, my hands clenched into fists. That night I could not sleep. I kept replaying her smirk, her words, the casual way she admitted to using me. I thought about confronting her again, demanding the money, maybe even taking her to small claims court. But court would be slow, uncertain, and expensive in its own way. Then I remembered something. I am a contractor. I purchased all those materials. I installed all those fixtures, and there was no written agreement, no contract, nothing that said those materials were a gift to her. Legally, if I paid for something and installed it and there was no documentation transferring ownership, that property might still be mine. Friday morning I called Marcus, my buddy from college who is now a real estate attorney. I explained the entire situation, every detail, every dollar spent, her refusal to pay. Marcus listened, and then he actually laughed. Dude, you might actually have a case here. If you paid for all the materials and labor and there is no signed agreement saying they are hers, you could argue they are your property that you installed like a loan of goods, he explained further. Especially if you have receipts proving you bought everything. In Oregon, contractors have certain rights. He advised me to check Oregon property law, send her a formal written demand for payment, and if she refused, I might be able to remove my property. But do it carefully. Do it legally. I spent that entire weekend researching. Oregon revised statutes, contractor lien rights, unjust enrichment laws. I found legal precedent showing that contractors can remove materials they paid for if they are not compensated, as long as the removal does not cause structural damage to the property. The key detail: everything I had installed was non-structural. The flooring just sat on top of the existing subfloor. The fixtures bolted in. The cabinets screwed in. Nothing was load-bearing or permanently integrated into the building structure. I formulated a plan, one final demand letter. If she refused, I would legally take everything back. For the first time in weeks, I felt power returning. I was not helpless anymore. I was not a victim. I could act. Monday morning, I drafted a formal demand letter with Marcus, reviewing every word to make sure it was legally sound. The letter stated the total materials cost of $2,530, requested payment within 7 business days, and warned of legal action if the amount remained unpaid. I sent it via certified mail so there would be a signature confirmation, and I also emailed it to create a digital paper trail. Wednesday, Stephanie received the letter. My phone exploded with texts. Are you seriously threatening me after I let you work on my apartment? The audacity was stunning. I replied calmly, I am asking for payment for materials I purchased. That is fair. She called me immediately, and I could hear the fury in her voice. You cannot just demand money now. We had an agreement, she yelled. I stayed calm. We had no agreement. No contract. You used me. Either pay me or I will take back what is mine. There was silence, then she laughed. Actually laughed. Take it back. What are you going to do? Rip out the floors? Good luck with that, genius. Then she added, besides, once it is installed, it is part of the property. You cannot touch it, my realtor told me. Her realtor was wrong, but she did not know that, and I was not about to educate her yet. She hung up on me. Friday, day 7 of my demand letter came and went. No payment. The weekend passed. Still nothing. Monday morning I sent one final text, payment not received. I am exercising my legal right to reclaim my property. I will be there tomorrow at 9 in the morning with my crew. Stephanie did not respond. She probably thought I was bluffing, that I would never actually follow through. She was wrong. Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock sharp, I pulled up to her building with Jake and my other contractor buddy Luis. We had my truck, all our tools, everything we needed. Stephanie's car was not in the parking lot. She was at work. Perfect. I still had the key to her apartment. She had never asked for it back, which was her mistake. I had sent her a text warning that I would be there, which gave me legal cover. I had the right to reclaim my property. The three of us entered the apartment. We worked fast and efficiently. This was not vandalism. This was systematic property recovery. We started with the vinyl plank flooring. Because it was click-lock installation, each plank could be carefully pried up and removed without damage. We took up every single plank from the living room and bedroom, all 20 boxes worth. Next, the kitchen cabinet hardware. I unscrewed every single handle and knob I had installed, leaving her with the original old ones. The under-cabinet lighting came down next, LED strips disconnected and removed. In the bathroom, I removed the new faucet I had installed and actually reinstalled her old leaky faucet that I had kept in my truck. The ceiling fan in the bedroom came down, replaced with her old basic light fixture that I had saved. We took the new bathroom towel, racked the mirror, brackets the closet, shelving every single thing I had paid for. And then came the piece de resistance, the toilet. I had actually replaced her old toilet, which had a weak flush and was an ancient model, with a brand new dual flush efficient model that cost about $300. I had never even mentioned it to her because it seemed like a basic necessity. Luis shut off the water supply. We disconnected the toilet, removed the new one, and reinstalled her old toilet that I had saved in my storage unit because I hate wasting materials. By 1 o'clock that afternoon, the apartment looked worse than when I had first walked in a month ago. The living room and bedroom had bare subfloor because I had removed her original carpet and never replaced it. Every fixture was back to the old broken version. Her $30,000 value boost was completely gone. I took photos of everything for documentation, locked the door, and left the key on her kitchen counter with a note. Took back my property as legally entitled. All receipts available if you want to dispute. Signed, Donnie. Loading the truck felt incredible. Jake high-fived me. Dude, that was legendary. Luis was laughing. Even the toilet, that is cold, man. I smiled. She earned every bit of it. At 3 o'clock that afternoon, my phone started exploding. Stephanie was losing her mind. What did you do? You destroyed my apartment. I am calling the police. You are going to jail. I replied calmly via text. I removed my property that I paid for. All legal. You refused payment. Check with your realtor. She threatened to sue me. I responded, I have consulted an attorney. I am within my rights. You want to sue me? Go ahead. I have receipts, texts, witnesses, documentation of everything. See you in court. She tried the guilt approach next. How could you do this to me? I typed back. How could you use me? We are done here. I blocked her number. The weight that had been pressing on my chest for a month lifted. I was not a victim anymore. I had acted. I had taken back my power, my property, my dignity. That evening, Jake, Lewis, and I celebrated with beers and wings, laughing as we recounted every moment, imagining the look on her face when she walked into that apartment. The following week, Stephanie escalated. She actually filed a police report claiming I had broken into her apartment and vandalized it. The police investigated. I provided them with copies of the texts showing I had warned her I would be there, the attorney letter showing formal demand for payment receipts, proving I had purchased every single item I removed, and proof that I had key access. The police concluded it was a civil matter, not criminal. If she wanted to pursue it, she needed to sue me in civil court. She contacted a lawyer. Her lawyer told her the truth. She had a weak case. There was no contract. I had receipts for everything. She had refused payment, and contractor law in Oregon supported my actions. It would cost her more in legal fees than the materials were worth. She dropped it, but the damage to her was done. Her apartment was now unleasable and unsellable until she fixed everything again, which would cost her thousands. Her parents found out what happened when they came to visit and saw the disaster. They were furious with her for taking advantage of someone. Her $30,000 value boost disappeared. If she wanted to sell, she would have to disclose the flooring and fixture issues to potential buyers. Meanwhile, I sold some of the reclaimed materials. The vinyl plank flooring was gently used, and I got $800 for it from another contractor. I kept the toilet and fixtures as backup inventory for future jobs. My net loss ended up being about $1,700. It was an expensive lesson, but worth it for the justice. Marcus told me over drinks one night you did everything right. Legally clean, and honestly, she deserved it. I agreed completely. Weeks passed, and I threw myself back into paying clients, real work projects where people valued my time and expertise. I processed everything emotionally. The anger faded, replaced by clarity. I realized I had been vulnerable after my breakup with Emily. I had wanted connection, wanted to feel needed, and I ignored every single red flag Stephanie waved in my face. She had shown signs from the very beginning, never offering to pay escalating requests every single time, the entitled attitude that grew stronger with each weekend. I let it happen because I wanted to believe in goodness, wanted to help, wanted to be the kind man my father raised me to be. But I learned that help should be reciprocal. Kindness should not be exploitation. I talked to my dad about it one evening while we worked on his truck. "Son, I taught you to help people," he said, wiping grease from his hands. "But I also taught you to value your work. Do not ever let someone make you feel guilty for expecting respect." My dad was proud of how I handled it. "You stood up for yourself. That is what matters." I reflected on my growth. I learned to set boundaries, to recognize manipulation when it is happening, to protect myself while still being a good person. I do not regret trying to help Stephanie. I regret not stopping sooner. I made myself a new rule: always get it in writing, always discuss payment up front, always value myself enough to walk away when someone does not respect me. Kindness does not mean being a doormat. I started dating again, casually, meeting new people. I was more cautious, but not cynical. There is a difference. I met people who appreciated my work, paid fairly, respected boundaries. Good people exist, but you have to protect yourself from the bad ones. Months later, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Stephanie had moved. She could not afford to fix the apartment properly and ended up selling at a loss. When I heard that, I felt nothing. No satisfaction in her suffering, no guilt for my actions. Just neutral acceptance. She made her choices. I made mine. The lessons I learned are clear now. Being kind does not mean being weak. You can help people without sacrificing yourself. Some people will take and take until you physically stop them. Standing up for yourself is not cruel, it is necessary. The best revenge is not anger or bitterness, it is reclaiming your power and moving forward. I do not hate Stephanie anymore. Honestly, I pity her. Living life by using people leads to loneliness and loss, but I am grateful to her in a strange way. She taught me to value myself, to set boundaries, to recognize my worth. My contracting business runs differently now. I have clear contracts, upfront payment terms, and mutual respect with every client. Some of my clients have become genuine friends, people who appreciate craftsmanship and treat me with dignity. My life is better now than it was before I met her. So yeah, I removed everything from that apartment, even the toilet. Was it petty? Maybe. Was it justified? Absolutely. Sometimes you have to take back what is yours literally. I do not tell this story to brag. I tell it so maybe someone else out there recognizes the signs earlier than I did. If someone makes you feel guilty for expecting basic respect, walk away. And if they will not let you walk away with dignity, take your dignity back along with your toilet, your flooring, and everything else that belongs to you. These days I sleep better knowing I stood up for myself. And honestly, that is worth more than any $30,000 value boost. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been taken advantage of by someone you tried to help? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below, because I know I am not the only one who has been through something like this. If this story resonated with you, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want more real-life stories about standing up for yourself and not letting people walk all over you. And please share this video with anyone who needs to hear that it is okay to set boundaries and demand respect. Thank you for watching, and remember, your kindness is valuable, but so is your self-respect. Never forget that. Take care of yourselves out there.